We're gonna make one of the last Tara videos. Everybody says, you don't have a bobcat. Right there he sits. He's kind of shy. That's my security system, and he can get kind of violent too. He's mixed with the domestic tabby tuna. He does have domestic in him, and he's mostly bobcat and acts like one. That's just one pussy cat you don't fool with. Everybody says, what kind of cat is it? I says, well, it's a fucking mean one. We're going to make this. I'm not happy with this bumper. I got this off of eBay. And I thought it would be chrome. It's in silver. It's a KP brand. And we're going to go over some things here between the shop. I had some questions to answer. It's a gloomy day. I'm not doing too much besides feeding the wildcats and making my list of things I have to do here on Tara. Besides the door. It's all back together. Once I do the door, I'm going to do the stripe on the tailgate. The bottom of the tailgate's all white. And I usually add gold. It's kind of my color scheme. That's the bumper. There were bolt holes pre-threaded just like the factory bumper, but you couldn't. It stripped the goddamn bolts out. But for what that truck was to what it is, I told you, you're only going to polish something that was that damaged and rusted out. You're only going to go so far before you tire out. And to do it in a couple of weeks like I did and take some of the body off and the front end and everything, I mean, a lot of guys, they go in depth. We like our trucks. And I feel as though they're one of the most comfortable trucks. I had an old Ford Highboy because I see a lot of Highboy videos now. When I bought mine, I didn't even know what the hell a Highboy was. It was just sitting up. There's the old wheels and stuff. But to answer some of the questions, when you like these trucks and you like a certain model year, and as I explained, those were coming out before I left for Iraq, and I couldn't afford one. I just couldn't get the money with a mortgage and a development that I bought. This thing, she'll last me like the other one does. I take care of them. I put motors in them and stuff, but total cost there, you're at about $4,800 with the bumper and the other doors coming, and I'm getting a front bumper. And then we're going to get some highlights for it in the company logo. To put something like that together, a lot of people had questions about the body work. How do you sand it? Well, I can't hold your hand. There's no government program. But when you shape it, you start out with fiberglass, the short stranded haired fiberglass. And as you can see, it leaves your workbench a shithouse. I start with 36 and 40 grit. This is the 40. And it's on the back of the pad. They're hook and loop pads, and I just have a cheap DA. I don't have body files, like I said. I don't go. That bed on that truck should have really been replaced. I got to let the boys out to play. But when you guys are looking for filler muds and different things like that Dynolite, the truck's all back together, and part of it is the process of what you use to do the truck. And what makes it fast is coming up with a system. Okay? I'm not just saying that, I'm just telling you that. You got to develop a system like the short-haired fiberglass, and then I use the Chromolite for a filling mud, because that other stuff, even though it says filler, that's just for light imperfections. That's to go over the big heavy areas or something that's sunk in a little bit, and you can, basically coat in hairline scratches, but you're not going to fill with it. It's really, even though it says filler on the can, I have a whole host of 80 grit. I don't really use too much 220. I use more of the 120. And I'll tell you why. It helps the paint stick a little bit better, especially over the epoxy primers. I kind of rough my epoxy primer with the 120 so it sticks. I don't use 220. It gets too glossy. So to tell people whatever you need to do the job is the tools to do the job, that's the results. And it takes a whole lot of money for wheels, tires, suspension. Okay, I started out by lifting it up, making sure the suspension was right and tight. I found the rotten shock mounts. Then the front end had to get lined up, and the ball joint was replaced. There was just so much done on that truck. That's why a lot of the trucks, how could I say, go to the scrapyard. People just don't want to go that 9 yards. You really got to love that type of truck. And here we're going. It's summertime in the Poconos, and the medevac is over my house every 10 minutes. There's an accident every 10 minutes. Welcome to living in a tourist location. Tourists don't know how to act. So you have a truck and you want to fix it up and you have tools, YouTube, you think you can find most of the knowledge. They can't figure out every engine problem, every shake, every rattle. That's what shops are made for. But in order to do something right, YouTube is one of the most useful tools. And I'm glad to see they fixed my volume problem on my last video. I hope they do that. And I wanted to get the next video out at the salvage yard to show you that you really don't get the premium parts that you're supposed to. I believe Harry's, they have a process that they go through. The vehicles don't come right off the wrecker and go in the scrapyard. I think they take a lot of the good parts and market them. And they take them to the market. And I wanted to show you our phone number, the shop number here, in case you do have a question, because the last video the battery died. I got to get some plants here for spring. It's still going down in the 30s at night, so I'm going to wait another week or two before I get any plants. But we make motorcycles, bikes, repair stuff, build them. We make our own brand, and it's kind of dead. It was busy. I had 5 or 6 bikes in here, and then it died. That's how business is. But to tell people, you got to have the fortitude, you got to have the tools, and you got to have the money, and you got to contemplate that there's going to be other problems and other issues when you buy a vehicle like that. It's used, and it's why a lot of them go to the scrapyard, even these motorcycles. You know, it needs a battery, it needs a tire, it needs brakes, and it needs a tune-up. It needs a carburetor. At some of the other shops, you're up over $1,500–1,600 with stuff like that. So I try to remain reasonable for people, and I do I do a lot of cosmetic body work and stuff like that on bikes and motorcycles. So I'm going to conclude the video that if you have any questions, now you have the shop number. And like I said, fortitude and having the tools. YouTube, you can get the knowledge, and you got to not be afraid to start ripping stuff apart. That's what this workbench is all about, besides the axe. It went down in the 30s. I made a little fire last night, got some of the cardboard and debris. It took me 2 days just to haul the junk and the parts out of here. That's why my workbench looks like a disaster area. Just to haul all the scrap, the fenders, the doors. Oh my God, the garbage. I took the windshield, the door motor out, if anybody needs a door motor for the Silverado. So that's it. Then I have other projects here. My printer took a shit. I have the life everybody else does, but you just look what things get to look like when you're involved in a project like this. So if your wife is not copacetic with the garage or part of the house looking like this, don't even attempt to do the truck. Then you got to take it somewhere. But I don't mind living like this. It's all part of me. It's all getting cleaned up. That's what we're doing today. It's raining. Thanks. And don't forget about Tara. She survived surgery and she's doing well. And just look at the mess. I hope I survive cleaning this up.